Hello, hi. So I am starting a new series on this channel that I am titling it after the name of my first blog that I started writing. It had to be maybe like 2004, 2005. I'll do some research before the next video and share the exact date. But the title of that blog was Uninspired Ramblings of Pure Inspiration. And it really just started off as a way for me to post just general musings and thoughts that I had about various things. And actually that blog ended up kind of transitioning me into my fashion and style blog that I managed that was called Clueless Fashionista. And just a quick description of that particular blog. It was a fashion and style blog for those who did not consider themselves fashionable. So everything was very one-on-one and kind of like, here's how to do these things. And I really just wrote it for myself. And so that was my early blog journey. And so this series is going to be titled after that blog. So I really like that name and I like to keep it going. But also this video series is going to be a series of videos that are about my musings. And so I want to give credit to the inspiration behind this. Do not know that they are the inspiration, but I'd like to give them a shout out. So there's a YouTuber by the name of Ignant Intellectual. And they, their YouTube channel is really all about thinking about your thoughts. And what they like to say in a lot of their videos is, you don't have to agree with me, but I want you to think about why you think the way that you do. And so that made me think about my own thoughts, and I wanted to also talk through them here in this video series. So that is what I'm going to be doing. I'll start by reading out the musing and then I'll talk through it. So let's jump right in. All right, so as I said, I'm going to start by reading the musing. And so when I say reading the musing, I'm looking at my notes app on my phone, but I will, have thoughts and then I'll just write them down in various places. So I have a notes app on my phone. I have an Evernote. I have some where I've spoken the thought because I was just kind of thinking and talking and walking and saying the things. And so that's where it comes from. Now, this particular musing, I have no idea when I wrote this. I'm not really even sure. I can't think of what the initial impetus was, but it speaks to relationships. So let's read the musing. I can leave them where they are and choose to love them from afar or not at all. I can choose to leave the door open, slightly ajar, or close it entirely. And it's important to make peace with the repercussions/impact of those decisions. So now let's talk about that musing. Now, one, I cannot remember where I was or what was the impetus of me writing this down. So I'm not sure, but I'm sure I probably was thinking about relationships. And honestly, as I'm looking at it, I'm looking at my phone here. I was probably thinking about friendships. So not necessarily romantic relationships, but maybe friendships, familial relationships, because this can apply across relationships, situations. It can apply across a lot of scenarios. And thinking of as I started to get older and as my interests started to shift and I started to want to pursue other interests, I would look around and I realized that the friends that I had, their interests aligned more with kind of where my interests were when we first met. So say I have a group of friends and we have been friends since we were in or since I was in my 20s, they might have been in their late 20s or something like that. And then by the time I'm later 20s, early 30s, my interest has shifted. And so now I'm saying like my friend group doesn't really know how to support me in this interest, but that doesn't mean that I want to get rid of my friend group. And so it's like, how do you approach that when there are people in your life that you want to keep, but you may have to adjust how you relate to them because who you are has adjusted. and just like being okay with the fact that who you are has adjusted. It doesn't mean that they're not good people. It doesn't mean that you don't value them. It just means that you need to shift how you connect with them, because you might need to broaden your friend circle, or you might need to add another circle. I really like the fact that I've been able to develop, like, I have my core friendships and people that that are like my people. I have those folks who are really close to me, but then I have like circles of friends that, you know, all the way out to some people who I don't talk to on a regular basis. But when I see them, it's just like, hi, how are you? How's life? Like, I really genuinely want to know how they're doing. And social media is a really great way to kind of maintain those types of relationships, because you don't talk all the time. You can keep up with people by seeing what's happening on, what they're sharing on social media. So at least when you see them, you're not like, oh my goodness, you have a 4-year-old, because you haven't seen them in person in several years. So you spend a lot of time talking about the fact that now they have a 4-year-old, versus with social media, you can say, I see that the little guy is 4, and, he's starting pre-K, and that's really cool. Or, the little bit is 3, or whatever that is. And then you could kind of speak on that, of course, and acknowledge it. But then you can move into like, so what else is happening? What are you not showing me on social media? And I really appreciate social media as a platform for that type of connection. But then I think about people that I've had to release from my life. And I definitely have friends. And I can think very specifically to, I have 2 really good guy friends that one guy friend I've known since college. Like, we literally met the second semester of my freshman year. I think he had just gotten there, because he came a little bit after us. And like, we met at a random party that one of my friends who lived on the same dorm, who lived in the same dorm as I did on the same floor. I had gone to a party with her. And so he was someone who was from her hometown. We were at the party, and I was really quiet, especially if I go somewhere and I don't know a lot of people. Really, this applies now too. And so I was just kind of sitting in a love seat on a seat in the midst of the party, and just kind of watching everybody, talk and engage and interact. And I knew a couple of folks there, but these weren't my people. So I was very much observing. And he came over to me and was like, hey, what's your name? What are you doing? And he was just kind of talking to me, but it wasn't like he was trying to holler, or he wasn't trying to like date me. He was just like, you're sitting over here in the corner quietly, and I just want to know, who are you? What's going on with you? And like, from that point forward, he was like one of my best friends. And so like so much so that he and I over the years have been roommates. He's been truly a platonic friend. Like, there's been never, like I said, he wasn't trying to holler at me then. He wasn't trying to do it later, like truly platonic friends. But over the years, our friendship has shifted and adjusted, especially when he moved. And so we are no longer in the same city. Doesn't mean we don't stay in touch, but our friendship isn't the same as it was when we were roommates and we like saw each other day in and day out and really knew what was happening in each other's lives. We have to be a lot more intentional about staying in touch. And so I could have taken that as, well, I guess we're just not going to be friends anymore, and just kind of stop talking to him. But I didn't want to, because I'm like, this is a good friend of mine. Like, we can reminisce about some silly, crazy things that have happened when we were younger. And I like that camaraderie. So I'm just going to adjust how we're friends and be fine with it. And whatever happens as a result, we're just going to move forward. And so he could have decided that he wasn't going to be my friend anymore in response to us having to adjust our friendship. Now, he didn't, so we're still cool. But, I had to be willing to recognize that friendship might kind of fade away by virtue of life changes. I had another good friend, where we were really close, and he had gotten married. And so when he got married, I felt like our closeness wasn't as appropriate. One, we were in our 20s. And so just kind of understanding how to maintain that level of rapport while he was building a life with his new wife, it felt like it didn't work for me. And we also had a relationship that kind of started off with with romantic elements, and then it transitioned into a truly platonic situation. So it wasn't so much as I was like wanted to be with him. It was more so like we're super close. We really confided each other. We really lean on each other in a way that I don't know will be helpful to the fact that he's now married and he needs to build his life with his wife. And so I made a decision. And I remember saying to him, like, so you and I can't be as close as we once were because you're married now. You have to focus on that. And, now that I'm older, I do realize that platonic relationships can exist. But as a 20 something, wanting to really just be respectful of his marriage and his wife, who I knew, her and I weren't friends, but she was a person, I knew her. And so I just thought that was the best approach. And so I did that understanding the fact that I would probably not be in his life in the way that I was previously. And being that there might be parts of his life that I once was very much entrenched in that I would no longer be, and then having to be fine with that. And so it doesn't mean that I didn't miss my friend when, I made that choice, but I had to stand 10 toes down in that choice. And so, but also being willing to adjusted as we got older and kind of figured out how to move forward. And like once he was further entrenched in his marriage and be like, okay, now we can reconnect and be cool. But of course, we're not going to be as friends the same way we were before because time has passed. And so being willing to accept that and not try to backtrack on that idea of, kind of separating our friendship, because that was what I felt like was the best decision and also the best decision for me at the time. Because trying to like maintain a friendship with somebody who is trying to, get their feet under them as a married individual can be frustrating. And so it's like, don't do that to yourself. So just give space for it. And I have seen similar situations come up with friends that, other friends that I've had and that I have, and just being willing to accept it. But also as it relates to certain scenarios and situations, I'm currently in kind of a state of transition and I'm having to make decisions right now about how I move forward in this time of transition. And I have to be really clear about what it is I would like to do. And sometimes it's meaning me walking away from things that I did like to do, but don't align with what I would like to be as I move in a transition state. And that's like very vague without saying specifics, but I have to be okay with making those choices. So I think it is really just important that when you have decided that you're either going to keep someone or something close or hold it afar, and how you're going to do that, as long as you are willing to, like I said, stand 10 toes down in that decision and not waffle when the results or the reaction are unexpected. So that's my first musing. I am sharing this because, one, I wrote these down and I would like to think about my thoughts. Shout out Ignant Intellectual. And sometimes me talking through them is a great way for me to process my thoughts and really just, get clear about what I was thinking. But I love to hear your thoughts. So I love to hear the perspectives and insights of other people about my musings. So if my musing has caused you to think differently, or if you want to share your thoughts about my musings and any inspirations you have, I would love to have a conversation about them in the comments. Now, I will like to say that this comment section needs to be one of respect and curiosity, and not about trying to win conversations, trying to demean or dismiss someone else's point of view because you don't agree with it or you think they should think something differently. If we're going to think about our thoughts, we have to focus on our thoughts and not the thoughts of others. So I look forward to seeing what your thoughts are in the comments. And stay tuned for more of my musings of uninspired ramblings of pure inspiration.